Alright, so I think everyone knows how much I love Assassin's Creed 3, and I decided to bite the bullet and buy the remastered version for Assassin's Creed 3 on the Xbox One, and this was not a good remaster. This was not a good remaster, Ubisoft. The first issue I have with this remaster is simply, when you start it up, you have to choose between Assassin's Creed 3 and Assassin's Creed Liberations. There's a red background, until you make a choice, and I'm sorry, but I do not like this. It does not look good, and it just looks terrible. Now, to be fair, I do have the digital version, so I'm sure that if you get the physical copy, then you have two separate discs of either Assassin's Creed 3 or Liberations. But either way, I don't like this. Another thing I didn't like immediately once I started playing this was how the characters looked in this game, which they look awful, and they don't look like actual humans. Now, I get that these are video game characters and they aren't real people, but in the original they at least look like humans. They do. They don't look like dolls or something. In the remaster, their skin is just too smooth, and their eyes are all just so wide, and they look like dolls instead of actual people. Like, honestly, they look like characters from the San Andreas Definitive Edition, and not Assassin's Creed 3. They also ruined some cutscenes because of how the characters look like. Now it takes away all the emotion, or the lighting in the cutscenes just ruins it, and it makes some really emotional moments just hilarious, because there's just no emotion anymore coming from the character's face and just how they look. It it just ruins the moment.
Lives. A fair trade, is it not?
What is your name?
Charles Lee. Why do you ask?
So I can find you.
Or sometimes the music will just get cut off, as the cutscene ends, and it just ruins the moment. And the cutscene that came before it, that was kind of building up, the music was building it up, and then it just cuts off, and it just ruins it.
You've your tools and training, your targets and goals. And now you have your title. Welcome to the Brotherhood, Connor.
However, even big historical figures just look bad in this. Like, Ben Franklin honestly looks like he came from BioShock Infinite. I don't understand why he looks like that. It's just so... it's just... I don't like it. Look at Zio's eyes in this cutscene. She just looks like an alien. What the hell is wrong with her? Now, it's not just the characters that look bad, but this game is also very bright. And what I mean is, even with your brightness at default setting, it looks like somebody put the brightness all the way up, and it's distracting. It looks bad. It looks bad. However, if you lower the brightness, then it's too dark, so you can't even see anything. So there's no middle ground really for this game, and it's just I spent hours just going back and forth dealing with the brightness. Also, for some reason, the music in this game just doesn't play sometimes, whether it be for combat or when you enter a tavern or just walking around Connor's village. Once you start playing as him, and that's a shame, because Assassin's Creed 3, it has some really good music. The music is really good. It's not the best in the franchise, but it's still really good. But for some reason, it just doesn't play at all during this remaster, or it plays extremely quietly, so you can't even hear it. But honestly, the sound in general in this remaster isn't great, because I feel like the guns don't sound that great, and they don't sound like how they did in the original. Same whenever you hit someone with a melee weapon. The original honestly sounded very meaty and brutal, but this one just doesn't sound like any... It doesn't even sound like your weapon is, making contact with the enemy. Also, sometimes the audio is just extremely quiet, and I mentioned this earlier. You can't hear it, and for no reason, but then other times one part of the soundtrack would just play over and over and over again, and it would just be louder than the dialogue being spoken, which just ruins the moment as well. This game also changes some things about some missions, like, for example, the mission where you take out Edward Braddock as Hatham. If I remember correctly, in the 360 version, it's raining or foggy during that scene, but in the remaster, it's bright daylight, which is just a weird change in my opinion. It's kind of a nitpick, but it's a weird change. The game also froze for me for a second while I was trying to dodge a bear while playing as Connor, which it was very weird. it just stuck there of Connor looking at the bear. I also had this moment when I honestly don't really have anything else to say other than God himself decided to smile down onto the homestead and everything went white. I couldn't watch the cutscene that was playing or do anything when the cutscene ended. And it was just like, I don't understand. Why is everything white? I don't get it. But also during the cutscene before you kill Johnson, his friend ran into, Connor's best friend runs into the homestead to warn him, being like, Johnson's going to take our land and all that. And the light outside the door made it look like this man came in from the door to heaven. Like, this man literally walked in from the door to heaven. So, I don't know, maybe God was shining down onto the homestead. I don't know. Also, why is Johnson flashing in this scene?
Neither will you. Everyone, hang on!
Now, I would say more, but honestly, it would just be me going on and on about how bad this remaster looks. I love Assassin's Creed 3, but honestly, if I want to play Assassin's Creed 3, I think I'm just going to play the 360 version rather than the remaster, because this just wasn't great. It wasn't great. It ruined kind of my emotional parts of the game. And I laughed a lot during this game while playing through this remastered. But the thing is, I laughed at moments that weren't funny, that aren't supposed to be funny, that's supposed to be emotional. And frankly, I laughed because the remaster did like some messed up stuff with the lighting and all that. But I wish Ubisoft put actual effort into this, but sadly, they didn't.